Hi, Girl Scouts. Molly here. I'm with Girl Scouts of Virginia Skyline, and today we're going to be talking about the Senior Sky Badge, step number 4, which is to help clear sky pollution. And the way that I thought we could do this is by talking about light pollution specifically and how it affects our skies and just us as people in the world generally, and how we can look into the effects of light pollution in our communities and ways we can help. So I'm going to share my screen first and go over a few things with you guys. So if you're not already familiar with light pollution, that is what we're talking about today. And what light pollution is the inappropriate or the excessive use of artificial light. So things like light from your house, light from street lamps, light from businesses. If you live anywhere near like, say like a stadium that'll have really big stadium lights on all night long, that would be considered light pollution. And it can cause glare, so glare shining in your eyes. It can cause sky glow, which makes it really hard to see the sky at night. And light trespass is another issue where light could shine, say, on your neighbor's house, and they would have an issue with that. So this little, sketch just has some examples of how the light is used. So when you have, say, a traffic light or just a street light, the only useful light is pointing down, but so much other light goes elsewhere and causes some light pollution. And so some of the problems associated, not just humans are affected by light pollution. Yes, it does, affect our ability to see the sky and the stars, which a lot of astronomers see as a big problem. And in a minute here, we're going to see specifically what light pollution looks like in Virginia and in our specific areas. But it can waste a lot of energy. Obviously, keeping lights on all night long isn't necessarily economically and a good use of resources. But it also affects animals a lot. So like nocturnal animals can be confused when there's light sources that they're not used to. Birds in particular can have a lot of issues with light pollution. Insects, sea turtles sometimes will plant their nests in the wrong places because of light sources confusing them. And so there's a lot of different issues associated with light pollution and a lot of reasons to want to work against it. And so how can you help? So the first way to do anything about light pollution is find out what light pollution looks like where you live. It's always good to start on a small scale. And then discuss, have discussions about light pollution with others, with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors. See what they think and see what ways they may be already working against light pollution. And then you can also find out about local lighting ordinances in your area, and I'll show you how I'm going to find out about my area in just a minute here. But those are just some ideas as to how you can learn more about light pollution and how that affects our skies. And so I'm going to share a different screen in just a second. I'm going to show you a way that we can find out how much light pollution there is in our area and see what it looks like for different parts of the country. And so the best way to do that is to go to, it's the NASA Blue Marble Navigator. It's a really cool tool. And then I'm going to go to Night Light Imagery, and it'll show me, well, it jumps right to Germany, but I'm going to go over to the US and see what our lights look like at night in our area. So in particular, the whole United States is really interesting to see. Obviously, it's going to be congregated in some of the bigger cities. Some of the more rural, less populated areas don't have quite as much light pollution. So that's really interesting to see. And then as I get more involved in the Virginia map, I'll see what it looks like in my specific area. So like I said, I'm in Roanoke, Virginia. And so we are going to see specifically what it looks like here in Roanoke. And so there is quite a bit of light, like I said, it's not going to be as much as some of the bigger cities like Washington or Richmond, even Virginia Beach. But Roanoke is a heavy light area on this map. So obviously some of the less dark areas are up here in more rural areas or even in the national forest. There's going to be a lot less light pollution in those areas. But if you live in one of these spots, one of these hot spots with all the light right here, you can go out at night and just see the difference between how much light you see there versus if you were in one of these more rural areas, which if you've traveled and you've gone maybe out west to some of those spots or other places in the country, you'll know that the lights in the city are always going to be causing a good amount of light pollution and affecting not only, the animals and the birds and the bugs, but you specifically can notice it when you have less ability to see the stars. And so that's just one way to figure out what the amount of light pollution looks like in your area. So that's a good way to start, is find out how big is the problem in your area. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe you live in one of these spots where it's actually pretty good as far as light pollution goes. But maybe you have a problem on a smaller scale. Maybe there's one big source of light that causes a lot of problems for your community. But the next step we're going to look at is looking into local ordinances and seeing what your community may already be doing to address light pollution and what else could be done. And the way that I would recommend doing this is just doing a search online of your community light pollution and ordinances, because then it'll probably take you to where this is going to take me, basically to city code, and it'll show me what is already going on, what has already been on the books. And I may have to search again here to find specifically how it's addressed light pollution. But as you can see, it's a little dry and it might be a little bit to sift through, but I can find out more information about my local area and see what maybe is already being done or if there's more that could be done. So those are just some ideas, some ways to get started. I would recommend too, not only looking at that map, but just going outside at night and seeing how much of the stars you can see, what light pollution you notice just in your community, in your neighborhood, in your small local area. Maybe you don't have a lot and that's great, but maybe you'll notice even the light from your house, from the windows out, pouring light outside. Maybe that is a way you can just shut the blinds and quickly eliminate a little bit of light pollution and things like that. So thanks for joining. Hopefully you learned a little bit about light pollution, but more importantly, hopefully you're motivated to learn more and investigate your local area and see what ways you can make a difference. Thank you.